We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's. And yet as mortal as his own. We know now that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space. Yet across an immense ethereal gulf, minds that are to our minds as ours are to the beasts in the jungle, intellects vast, cool, and unsympathetic regarded this earth with envious eyes and slowly and surely drew their plans against us.
And just a heads up, not so much change in temperature. A slight atmospheric disturbance is reported over Nova Scotia, causing a low pressure change to move in rather rapidly over the northern eastern states, bringing a forecast of rain accompanied by winds of light gale force. Maximum temperature 66, minimum 48. This weather report comes to you from the Government Weather Bureau. We now take you to our coverage of the Battle of the Bands held in the Falcon Center of the Arts in downtown New York, where you'll be following Julie Anderson and the music.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We start the night off with Different Now by Upper Cass. Gentlemen, we interrupt our program to bring you a special report from the Intercontinental Radio News. At 20 minutes before 6 Central Time, Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The spectroscope indicates this gas to be hydrogen and moving towards the Earth with enormous velocity. Professor Pearson of the observatory at Princeton confirms Farrell's observation and describes the phenomenon as, quote, like a jet of blue flame shot from a gun. We now return you to Julie Anderson, live from the Falcon Center of the Arts, situated in downtown New York. And now, a tune that really has this audience on their feet. Hammer on the Mountain by Jackson Saints.
Just when you think you got it all figured out, well, something comes along and starts feeding the doubt. Just when you think you got something to say, well, you better bite your tongue and put your foot in the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ezra Avery, bringing you a follow-up on the news given in our report a moment ago. The Government Meteorological Bureau has requested the large observatories of the country to keep an astronomical watch on any further disturbances occurring on the planet Mars. Due to the unusual nature of this occurrence, we have arranged an interview with a noted astronomer, Professor Pearson, who will give us his views on this event. In a few moments, we will take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, New Jersey. We return you until then to the music of the Jackson Saints.
Say what you want, say what you need, don't say anything. When you hammer on the mountain never goes away.
We are ready now to take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, where David Phillips, our commentator, will interview Professor Clancy Pearson, famous astronomer. We take you now to Princeton, New Jersey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is David Phillips speaking to you from the Observatory of Princeton. I'm standing in a large, semicircular room that is pitch black except for one oblong split in the ceiling. Through this opening, I can see a sprinkling of stars that cast a kind of frosty glow on the intricate mechanism of the telescope behind me. Professor Pearson stands here peering through the giant lens, watching the heavens. I ask you to be patient, ladies and gentlemen, during any interruption that may occur during our interview. Besides their ceaseless watch of the heavens, the professor may be interrupted by telephone or other methods of communication. During this time, they are in constant touch with the astronomical centers of the world. Professor, thank you for having us. May I begin our questions?
At any time, David Phillips.
Professor, could you please tell us exactly what you're seeing as you observe the planet Mars through your telescope?
Nothing unusual at the moment, Phillips. A red disk swimming in a blue sea. With transverse stripes across the disk. Quite distinct now, since Mars happens to be at the point closest to the Earth, in opposition, as we call it.
And in your opinion, what do these transverse stripes signify?
Not canals, I can assure you. Although that seems to be the popular conjecture of those who believe Mars to be inhabited, from a scientific viewpoint, the stripes are merely the result of atmospheric conditions peculiar to the planet.
Then, in your opinion, as a scientist, you don't believe that intelligent life as we know it exists on the planet Mars?
I'd say the chances against it are 1,000 to 1.
And then how would you account for these gas eruptions occurring at regular intervals on the surface of the planet?
Mr. Phillips, I cannot account for it.
And by the way, Professor, for the benefit of our audience, how far is Mars from the planet Earth?
Approximately 40 million miles.
Well, that seems like a safe enough distance to me. One moment, it appears that Professor Pearson is being handed a note. While that's being read, let me remind you that we are coming to you from the Observatory of Princeton in New Jersey, bringing you a special interview with Professor Clancy Pearson, noted astronomer. And, one moment, ladies and gentlemen. I'm being handed the very same message addressed to Professor Pearson that they received only a moment ago. Professor, may I read this on air?
Certainly, Phillips.
Ladies and gentlemen, I shall now read to you the message addressed to Professor Pearson from Dr. Gray of the National History Museum, New York. Quote, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Seismograph registered shock of almost earthquake intensity occurring within a radius of 20 miles of Princeton. Please investigate. Signed, Lloyd Gray, Chief of Astronomical Division. Professor, could this occurrence have anything to do with those gas eruptions observed on the planet Mars?
Hardly. This is probably just a meteorite of unusual size, and its arrival at this particular moment in time is merely a coincidence. Although we shall conduct a search as soon as daylight permits.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 10 minutes, we've been bringing you a special interview from the Princeton Observatory in New Jersey with Professor Clancy Pearson, noted astronomer. This is David Phillips speaking. We are now returning you to our New York studio.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest update from the Intercontinental Radio News. Toronto, Canada, Professor Morse of Macmillan University reports observing a total of 3 explosions on the planet Mars between the hours of 5:45 p.m. and 7:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This confirms earlier reports received from American observatories. Now, nearer home comes a special report from Trenton, New Jersey. It is reported that at 6:50 p.m., a huge flaming object, believed to be a meteorite, fell on a farm in the neighborhood of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton. The flash in the sky was visible within a radius of several hundred miles, and the noise of the impact was heard as far north as Elizabeth. We have dispatched a special mobile unit to the scene and will have our commentator, David Phillips, give you a word picture of the scene as soon as he can reach there from Princeton. In the meantime, we return you now to our coverage of the Battle of the Bands. Live from Falcon Center of the Arts, here's Nina Soro. Take you now to Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Phillips again out of Wilmouth Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Professor Pearson and myself have made the 11 miles from Princeton in 10 minutes. Well, I hardly know where to begin. To paint a word picture for you of this rather strange scene before my eyes, it's like something out of a modern-day Arabian Nights, maybe. Well, I've just got here. I haven't had a chance to look around much yet, but I guess that's it. Yes, I guess that's the thing directly in front of me. It's half buried in a vast pit. It must have struck with terrific force. Looks like there's some splinters of wood on the ground, maybe a tree or structure it struck on its way down. What I can see of the object doesn't look very much like a meteor, at least not any meteors I've seen. Looks more like a huge cylinder that has a diameter of about... What would you say, Professor?
What's that?
What would you say is the diameter of this?
About 30 yards.
About 30 yards. The metal on the sheath is... I've never seen anything like it, but it's sort of yellowish-white in color. Looks like some curious spectators are now getting closer to the object to get a better look. They're beginning to get in front of my line of sight. Would you mind standing to one side, please? Just... Thank you. While the police are dealing with the crowd, let me introduce you to Star Wilmuth, owner of the farm here, who may have some interesting facts to add. Miss Wilmuth is also the person responsible for the footage you have just seen of the meteor that has crash-landed here at Grover's Mill. Miss Wilmuth, would you please tell the audience as much as you remember of this rather unusual visitor that seems to have crash-landed in your backyard? A little closer, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Star Wilmuth.
Well, I was watching the news. And I was watching that professor fella talking about Mars, and I'm half dozing, half drowsing.
Yes, and then what happened?
Well, as I was saying, I was watching the news, half dozing, half drowsing, kind of sleep.
Yes, and then you saw something?
Well, not first off. I heard something.
And what did you hear?
A hissing sound like this. Kind of like that 4th of July rocket.
Yes, and then what happened, Miss Wilmot?
Well, I swore I was dreaming or something. I was half asleep.
Yes, and
then Zingo would knock me right out of my chair, and I just got out and started filming.
And were you frightened, Miss Wilmot?
Well, not first off. I was riled. I was kind of riled.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard from Star Wilmot, owner of the farm here, where this thing has fallen.
Will you like me to tell you some more?
Oh no, that's plenty. We've gotten enough. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish I could convey the atmosphere, the background of this fantastic scene. Hundreds of cars are parked in the field in back of us, and police are attempting to rope off the roadway leading into the farm, but it is no use. Those cars are breaking straight through their barricades. Their headlights now cast an enormous spotlight on the pit where this object is half buried. It looks like some of the more daring souls are getting near the edge. Like one man wants to touch the thing. Seems to be having an altercation with the policeman. And the policeman wins. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's something I haven't mentioned in all this excitement, but it's becoming more distinct now. Perhaps you've already heard it on your television. Just take a minute to listen closely, please. You hear that? Seems to be a strange humming noise coming from inside the object. I'll bring the microphone closer. Now we're not more than 25 or so feet away. Oh, we hear again from Professor Pearson. Professor Pearson.
Yes, David Phillips?
Could you please tell us the meaning of that scraping noise that seems to be coming from inside the object?
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
And Professor, do you still think that this is a meteor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial, not of this Earth. But friction with the Earth's atmosphere usually tears holes in a meteorite, and this thing is smooth and, as you can see, of cylindrical.
Just a minute. 1 minute. Something seems to be happening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is terrific. The end of this thing is beginning to flake off. The top is rotating like it's screwed. The thing must be hollow. It's just... ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most terrifying things I have ever witnessed. It looks like someone's crawling out of the top of it. Someone or something. I can see two luminous discs that seem to be coming out of the black hole. Or my face is... Oh, God. I can see what looks like a gray snake or something wriggling out of the shadow. Now there's another one, and another one, and another one. They look like maybe tentacles to me. I can see the body of the thing now. It's large as a bear, and it seems to glisten like leather in that face. Ladies and gentlemen, I can hardly bring myself to look at it. It's indescribable. The black eyes seem to glisten like a serpent's, and V-shaped mouth seems to have saliva dripping from these rimless lips that seem to quiver and pulsate. It's just, the monster, or whatever it is, seems to be weighed down by possibly gravity or something. The thing's rising up now, and the crowd falls back. They have seen plenty. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most extraordinary experience. I'll bring the microphone back with me as I fall back. I'll have to stop the description until I can get a better vantage point. Will you excuse me for one moment? Just one moment. Okay. Come on, let's bring the camera over here. Come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Channel 4 News. I'm Tori Reese, and tonight we've been following the story of a strange object that landed in Grover's Mill, New Jersey. It is unconfirmed whether or not the crash is related to the earlier documented explosions on the planet Mars. Professor Pearson, a renowned scientist known for their work in astronomy, has been able to inspect the craft and describe it as something not of this world. We now return you to David Phillips at Grover's Mill.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I on? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that is adjoining the Willamette Garden. From here, I get a whole sweep of the scene. I'll give you every detail I can, as long as I can see, and as long as I can talk. More state police have arrived. They're setting up a cordon in front of the pit. About 30 or so officers now. No need to push the crowd back now. They have seen enough. The chief commander appears to be meeting with someone now. We can't quite see who. Oh, it appears to be Professor Pearson. Yes. Looks like the two of them are splitting now. The professor is going along one side of the object, studying it, and the commander and two policemen are advancing on the object with something in their hands. Can't quite see what. Oh, looks like it is a white handkerchief tied to a pole. It's a flag of truce. If those creatures know what that means, what anything means. Wait, I can see a humped shape rising out of the pit. Looks like maybe a beam of light against a mirror. Looks like there's a jet of flame coming off the mirror. It strikes the advancing man head on. Good Lord, it bursts into flame. Now the flame is ready. The hills, the woods have caught fire. The gas exchange automobile is making its way closer. Now it's about 25 yards to the right.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast from Grover's Mill. Evidently, there's something wrong with our field transmission. However, we will return to that point at the earliest opportunity. In the meantime, we have an update from San Diego, California on the recently observed explosions from the planet Mars. Professor Kaufner, speaking from the dinner of the California Astronomical Society, expressed the opinions that the explosions on Mars are undoubtedly nothing more than severe volcanic disturbances on the surface of the planet. We ask for your patience as we attempt to reconnect with Grover's Mill. We ask that you please stand by.
Ladies and gentlemen, this just in. At least 6 state troopers, along with 40 other civilians, lie dead in a field east of the village of Grover's Mill. Their bodies burned and distorted beyond all possible recognition. We take you now to Brigadier General Alex Montgomery, the commander of the state militia at Trenton, New Jersey.
I have been requested by the governor of New Jersey to place the counties of Mercer and Middlesex, as far west as Princeton and east to Jamesburg, under martial law. No one will be permitted to enter this area except by special pass issued by state or military authorities. 4 companies of state militia are proceeding from Trenton to Grover's Mill and will aid in the evacuation of homes within the range of military operations. Thank you.
You have just heard from Brigadier General Alex Montgomery, commanding the state militia at Trenton. In the meantime, further details of the catastrophe at Grover's Mill are coming in. The strange creatures, after unleashing their deadly assault, crawled back into their pit and made no attempts to prevent the efforts of the firemen to recover the bodies and extinguish the fire. The combined fire departments of Mercer County are fighting the flames which menace the entire countryside. We are unable to establish any contact with our mobile unit at Grover's Mill, but we hope to be able to return you there at the earliest possible moment. In the meantime, we return you to... Just one moment, please.
So, change of plans.
Uh-huh.
We found Pearson, right?
Right.
We're just gonna change the teleprompter. Just read, okay?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just been informed that we have finally established communication with an eyewitness of the tragedy. Professor Pearson has been located at a farmhouse near Grover's Mill, where an emergency observation post has been established. As a scientist, the professor can give us a professional's opinion on the calamity. We take you now to Professor Pearson. Professor Pearson?
Of the creatures in the rocket cylinder at Grover's Mill, I can give you no authoritative information, either to their nature, their origin, or their purposes here on Earth. To their destructive instrument, I might have a conjectural explanation. For want of a better term, I shall call the mysterious weapon a heat ray. It's all too evident these creatures have a scientific knowledge far in advance of our own. It's my guess that they are somehow able to generate an intense heat in a chamber of practically absolute non-conductivity. This intense heat they then project in a parallel beam against any object they so choose by means of a polished parabolic mirror of unknown composition. Much as a mirror in a lighthouse projects a beam of light. That is my conjecture on the origin of the heat ray.
Thank you, Professor Pearson. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a bulletin from Trenton. It is a brief statement informing us that the charred body of David Phillips has been identified in a Trenton hospital. Now, here's another report from Washington, D.C. The Office of the Director of the National Red Cross reports 10 units of Red Cross emergency workers have been assigned to the state militia stationed outside Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Here's an update from State Police, Princeton Junction. The fires at Grover's Mill and vicinity are now under control. Scouts report all quiet in the pit, and there is no sign of life appearing from the mouth of the cylinder. We take you now to the field headquarters of the state militia near Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
This is Captain Tommy Lansing of the Signal Corps, attached to the state militia, now engaged in military operations in the vicinity of Grover's Mill. Situation arising from the reported presence of certain individuals of unknown origin is now completely under control. The cylindrical object, which lies in a pit directly below our position, is surrounded on all sides by 8 battalions of infantry. Without heavy field pieces, but adequately armed with rifles and machine guns. All cause for alarm, if such cause ever existed, is now entirely unjustified. The things, whatever they are, do not even venture to poke their heads above the pit. I can see their hiding place plainly in the glare of the searchlights here. With all their reported resources, these creatures can scarcely stand up to heavy machine gun fire. There appears to be some slight smoke in the woods over by the Millstone River. Probably some fire started by campers. Well, we ought to see some action here soon. One of the companies is deploying on the left flank. A quick thrust and it will all be over. Now, wait a minute. I see something on top of the cylinder. No, it's nothing but a shadow. Now the troops are on the edge of Wilmeth Farm. Several thousand armed men closing in on an old metal tub, rather. Wait, that wasn't a shadow. It's something moving. Solid metal. It's a shield-like affair, rising up out of the cylinder. It's going higher and higher. Why, it's standing on legs. Actually, rearing up on a sort of framework. It's reaching above the trees, and the searchlights are on it. Hold on!
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make.
As incredible as it may seem, both the observation of science and the evidence of our eyes led to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguards of an invading army from the planet Mars. The battle which took place tonight at Grover's Mill has ended in one of the most startling defeats ever suffered by an army in modern times. 7,000 men armed with machine guns and rifles, pitted against a single fighting machine of the invaders from Mars. 120 known survivors. The rest strewn across the battle area from Grover's Mill to Plain Bureau, crushed and trampled to death under the feet of a metal monster, or burned to cinders by its heat rays. The monster is now in control of Middle Section, New Jersey, and has effectively cut the state through its center. Communication lines are down from Pennsylvania to the Atlantic Ocean. Highways north, south, and west are clogged with frantic human traffic. Police and Army reserves are unable to control the mad flight. By morning, the fugitives would have swelled Philadelphia, Campton, and Trenton, estimated twice their normal population. Martial law still prevails throughout New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania. At this time, we take you to Washington for a special broadcast on the national emergency. The Secretary of Interior.
Citizens of the nation, I shall not try to conceal the gravity of the situation that currently confronts the country, nor the concern of your government in protecting the lives and property of its people. However, I wish to impress upon you, public citizens and private officials, all of you, the urgent need of calm and resourceful action. Fortunately, this formidable enemy is still confined to a comparatively small area, and we may place our faith in the military forces to keep them there. In the meantime, placing our faith in God, we must continue the performance of our duties, each and every one of us, so that we may confront this destructive adversary with a nation united, courageous, and consecrated to the preservation of human supremacy on this earth. I thank you.
You have just heard the Secretary of Interior speaking from Washington. Reports are flooding into the studio here. We've just been informed that the central portion of New Jersey is blacked out from radio communication due to the effects of the heat rays upon the power lines and electrical equipment. Astronomers report continued gas outbursts at regular intervals on the planet's surface. Majority voiced the opinion that the enemy will be reinforced by additional rocket machines. There have been several attempts to locate Professor Pearson of Princeton, who has been able to inspect the Martians at a close range. It is feared that he was lost during battle. Langdonfield, Virginia. Scouting planes report 3 Martian machines visible above the treetops, heading north towards Sumnerville, with the population fleeing ahead of them. Heat ray is not in use. Although advancing at an express train speed, invaders pick their way carefully. They seem to be making a conscious effort to avoid the destruction of cities and countrysides. However, they stop to uproot power lines, bridges, and railroad tracks. Their apparent objective? To crush resistance, paralyze communication, and disorganize human society. Please excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, we have been given special access to the artillery lines and the adjacent villages to give you direct reports of the advancing enemy. We first take you to the battery of 2nd Field Artillery located in the Watchtongue Mountains. We warn you, what you may hear may be disturbing.
Range, 32 meters. 32 meters. Projection, 39 degrees. 39 degrees. Fire!
140 yards to the right, sir.
Shift range, 31 meters. 31 meters. Projection, 37 degrees. 37 degrees. Fire! Fire!
A hit, sir! We got the tripod of one of them. They've stopped. The others are trying to repair it.
Quick, get the range. Shift 30 meters. 30 meters. Projection 27 degrees. 27 degrees. Fire!
Can't see the shell land, sir. They're letting off a smoke.
What is it?
A black smoke, sir. Moving this way, lying close to the ground. It's moving fast.
Put on gas masks. Get ready to fire. Shift to 24 meters. 24 meters. Projection 24 degrees. 24 degrees. Fire!
Still can't see, sir. The smoke's coming nearer.
Get the range.
23 meters.
23 meters. 23 meters.
Projection 22 degrees.
22 degrees.
Army bombing plane V-843 off Bayonne, New Jersey. Lieutenant Vought commanding 8 bombers. Reporting to Commander Fairfax, Langham Field. This is Vought reporting to Commander Fairfax, Langham Field. Enemy tripod machines now in sight, reinforced by 3 machines from the Morristown cylinder. 6 altogether. 1 machine partially crippled, believed hit by a shell from Army gun in Watchung Mountains. Guns now appear silent. A heavy black fog hanging close to the earth of extreme density, nature unknown. No sign of heat ray. Enemy now turns east, crossing Passaic River into the Jersey marshes. Another Strassel-Pulsaki Skyway. Evident objective is New York City. They're pushing down a high-tension power station. The machines are close together now, and we are ready to attack. Plane circling, ready to strike. 1,000 yards will be over the first. 800 yards. 600. 400. 200. There they go, the giant arms race. Green flag, sir. Bring up the plane. 2,000 feet. Engines are giving out. No chance to release the bombs. Only one thing left. Drop on the plane at all. We're down to the first one. Now the engine's gone. Hey!
This is Bayonne, New Jersey calling Langham Field. This is Bayonne, New Jersey calling Langham Field. Come in, please. This is Langham Field. Go ahead. 8 Army bombers in engagement with enemy tripod machines over Jersey Flats. Engines incapacitated by heat ray. All crashed. 1 enemy machine destroyed. Enemy now discharging heavy black smoke in direction of...
This is Newark, New Jersey. This is Newark, New Jersey. Warning, poisonous black smoke pouring in from Jersey marshes. Reaches South Street. Gas masks useless. Urge population to move in open spaces. Automobiles use route 7, 23, and 24. Avoid congested areas. Smoke now spreading over Raymond Boulevard.
This 2X2L calling CQ. 2X2L calling CQ. 2X2L. Calling 8X3R. Come in, please. This is 8X3R. Coming back at 2X2L. How's reception? How's reception? Okay, please. Where are you? 8X3R. What's the matter? Where are you?
I'm speaking to you from the roof of the broadcasting building in New... I'm speaking to you from the roof of the broadcasting building, New York City. The bells you hear are to warn people to evacuate as the Martians approach. Estimated in the last 2 hours, 3 million people have made their way along the roads towards north. Hutchinson Parkway is kept open to monitor traffic. Avoid bridges to Long Island, hopelessly jammed. All communication with Jersey Shore closed about 10 minutes ago. No more defenses. Our army is wiped out. Artillery, Air Force, everything is wiped out. Martian cylinders continue to fall all over the country. This may be our last broadcast. We'll stay here till the end. They're holding a service here below us in the cathedral. As I look out on the harbor now, all manner of boats overloaded with fleeing population pulling out from the docks. Streets are jammed. Noise and a crowd like New Year's Eve in the city. Wait a minute. The enemy is now in sight right above the palisades. Five great machines. The first one's crossing the river. I could see it from here. Waiting the Hudson like a man waiting through the brook. The first machine's reached shore. It stands watching, looking over the city, and steel, cowlish head is even with the skyscrapers. It waits for others. They rise like a new line of towers on the city's west side. Now they're lifting their metal hands. This is the end. Smoke comes out. Black smoke, drifting all over the city. People in the streets see it now. They're running towards the East River, thousands of them dropping in like rats. Now the smoke's spreading faster. It has reached Times Square. People are trying to run away from it, but it's no use. They're falling like flies. Now the smoke's crossing 6th Avenue. 5th Avenue. It's 100 yards away. It's 50 feet.
X2L calling CQ. 2X2L calling CQ. 2X2L calling CQ. New York. Isn't there anyone on the air? Isn't there anyone on the air? Isn't there anyone? 2X2L.
Please, remain calm. This is not a drill.
As I set down these notes on paper, I'm obsessed with the thought that I might be the last living man on Earth. I've been living in this house, this abandoned house near Grover's Mill. A small island of daylight cut off by the black smoke from the rest of the world. All that happened before the arrival of these monstrous creatures now seems a part of another life. One that has no continuity with the present furtive existence of the lonely derelict who pencils these words on the back of some astronomical notes bearing the signature of Clancy Pearson. Oh. I look down at my blackened hands, my torn shoes, tattered clothes, and I try to connect them with a professor who lives at Princeton and who, on that night, glimpsed through his telescope at an orange splash of light on a distant planet. My partner, my colleagues, my students, my books, my observatory, my world! Where are they? Did they ever exist? And I, Clancy Pearson? What day is it? Do days exist without calendars? Does time pass when there are no human hands left to wind the clocks? I keep watch at the window. From time to time, I catch sight of a Martian standing above the black smoke. The smoke still holds the house in its black coil, but at length I see a Martian standing above its machine. It's spraying the air with a jet of steam as if to dissipate the smoke. Oh! In a quarter as its huge metal legs nearly brush against the house. I'm exhausted by terror. I fall asleep. It's morning. Morning. Sunlight streams in through the window. The black smoke is lifted. The scorched meadows to the north look as though a black snowstorm has passed over them. For some reason, I feel safer trailing these creatures than running away from them. And I keep careful watch. I have seen the Martians feed. Should one of their machines appear over the tops of trees, I am ready to fling myself flat on the earth. I must keep alive. Two days. I wander in a vague northerly direction through a desolate world. Finally, I noticed a living creature. A small red squirrel in a beech tree. Oh, I stare at him and wonder. He stares back at me. I believe that at that moment, the animal and I shared the same emotion. The joy at finding another living being. Next day, I come to a city. A city vaguely familiar in its contours, yet its buildings strangely dwarfed and leveled off, as if a giant had sliced off its highest towers with a gracious sweep of its hand. I reached the outskirts. I found Newark. Undemolished, yet humbled by some whim of the advancing Martians. Presently, with an odd feeling of being watched, I spotted something crouching behind a bush. Made a step towards it. It rose up and became a person. A person armed with an axe.
Stop! Where you come from?
I come from many places. A long time ago from Princeton.
Princeton, huh? That's near Grover's Mill.
Yeah?
Grover's Mill. There's no food here. This is my country. All this end of town, down to the river. There's only food for one. Which way are you going?
I don't know. I guess I'm looking for people.
What was that? Did you hear something just then?
No, it was only a bird. A live bird.
Yeah. You get to know that birds have shadows these days.
Have you seen any Martians?
Nah, they've all gone up to New York. At night, the sky is alive with their lights, just as if people were still living in it. At night, by morning, you can't see them anymore. 5 days ago, a couple of them were carrying something big across the flats from the airport. I think they're learning how to fly.
Fly?
Yeah, fly.
Then it's all over with humanity. Stranger, there's still you and I. 2 of us left.
Yeah. They've done themselves solid. They wrecked the greatest country in the world. Those green stars, there's probably one of them falling somewhere every night. They've only lost one machine. There's not anything to do. We're done. We're licked.
Where were you? You're in a uniform.
Yeah, what's left of it. I was in the militia. National Guard? Yeah. That's good. There wasn't any war. No more than there's war between men and ants.
Yes, but we're eatable ants. I figured that out. What'll they do with us?
Got it all figured out. Right now, we're being caught as we're wanted. The Martian only has to go a couple of blocks to get a crowd on the run. But they won't do that for long. They're gonna start catching us. Systematic, like, taking the best of us and storing them in cages and things. They've not begun with us yet.
Not begun?
Not begun! All that's happened so far is because we don't have sense enough to keep quiet, bothering them with our guns and such, and losing our heads and rushing off into crowds. Instead of rushing in blindly, we've got to fix ourselves up. Fix ourselves up according to how things are now. Cities, civilization, progress, all that, done.
Yes, but if that's so, then what is there to live for?
Well, guess there won't be any more concerts in a couple million years or so. And no nice little dinners at restaurants. I guess if amusement's what you're after, the game's up.
Well, what is there left?
Life, that's what. I want to live. Yeah. And so do you. We're not gonna get exterminated. Yeah. And I don't mean to get caught either. Fattened and tamed and bred like an ox.
What are you going to do?
Oh. I'm going on. Right under their feet. I've got a plan. You see, we men, as men, we're finished. We don't know enough. We've got to learn plenty before we even have a chance. That's why you've got to keep alive and free while we learn. See, I thought it all out, see?
Tell me the rest.
Well, not all men were made for beast. And that's what it's got to be. That's why I watched you. Watched you. All these little office workers who used to live in these houses, they'd be no good. They haven't any stuff in them. They used to run off to work, rushing to catch their commuters' trains. And then in the afternoon, rushing back home, worried they won't be in time for dinner. Their lives well invested and a little insured in case of an accident. And then on Sundays, worried about the hereafter. The Martians would be a godsend to those guys. Nice roomy cages, good food, careful breeding, no worries. Give them a week or two on empty stomachs and they'll be glad to be caught.
You've thought it all out, haven't you?
Sure. You bet I have. Listen to this. The Martians. They're gonna keep pets of some of us. Train them to do tricks. Who knows, maybe get sentimental over the pet boy who grew up and had to be killed. And who knows, maybe some of them, they'll train to hunt us.
No, that's impossible. No.
Oh, yes, they will. There's men who will do it gladly. Why, if one of them got their hands on me, I'd...
In the meantime, you and I, and others like us, where are we to live when the Martians own the Earth?
I've thought it all out. We go underground. I've been thinking the sewers under New York. There's hundreds of them. The main ones, they're big enough for anybody. And then there's underground vaults, storerooms, cellars, railway tunnels, subways. You begin to see, huh? We'll get together a bunch of men, a bunch of strong men. No weak ones. That rubbish out.
As you meant me to go.
I gave you a chance, didn't I?
We won't quarrel about that. Go on.
Well, we have to make safe places for us to live in. See? We'll get together a bunch of books, a bunch of science books. That's where men like you will come in. And we'll raid the museums. We'll even spy on the Martians. And there's probably not that much we have to learn. Picture this. 4 or 5 of their fighting machines suddenly go off. Heat rays left and right. But not a Martian in them. Not a Martian in them, see? But people who have learned the way how. Just thinking about having one of those heat rays, all wild and free. We turn it on the Martians. We turn it on people. We bring the whole world to its knees.
That's your plan?
Yes. You, me, and a few more of us. We'd have the world in our hands.
I see.
Hey, wait. Where are you going?
Not to your world. Bye, stranger. After parting with the artillery man, I came at last to the Holland Tunnel. I entered that silent tube, anxious to know the fate of the great city on the other side of the Hudson. Cautiously, I came out of that tunnel and made my way up Canal Street. I reached 14th Street, and there again were the black powder and several bodies and an evil, ominous smell coming from the gratings of some of the houses. I stood alone on Times Square. I made my way up Broadway in the direction of that strange powder, past silent shop windows displaying their mute wares to empty sidewalks, past the Capitol Theater. Dark. Silent. Past a shooting gallery, where a row of empty guns faced an arrested line of wooden ducks. Suddenly, I caught sight of the hood of one of those machines, standing somewhere in Central Park, gleaming in the late afternoon sun. An insane idea! I rushed recklessly across Columbus Circle and into that park. I climbed up a small hill above 16th Street, and from there I could see 19 of those great metal titans. Their cowls empty. There's giant steel arms hanging listlessly by their sides. I looked in vain for the monsters that inhabit those machines. Suddenly, my eyes were attracted to the immense flock of black birds that hovered directly below me. They circled to the ground, and there, before my eyes, lay the Martians, with the hungry birds pecking and tearing brown shreds of flesh from their dead bodies. Later, when their bodies were examined in laboratories, it was found that they were killed by the disease and putrefactive bacteria against which their systems were unprepared. Slain after all men's defenses had failed. Before the cylinder fell, there was a general persuasion that throughout all the deep of space, no life existed beyond the petty surface of our minute sphere. Now we see further. Dim and wonderful seems the image I have conjured up in my mind of life spreading slowly from this little seedbed of solar system throughout all the inanimate vastness of a sidereal space. But that's a remote dream. It may be that the destruction of the Martians is only a reprieve, that to them and not to us is the future ordained, perhaps. Strange, it seems, to sit in my peaceful study at Princeton, writing down the last chapter of a record begun at an abandoned farm in Grover's Mill. It's strange to watch children playing on the street. It's strange to see young people strolling on the green, where the new spring grass heals the last black scars of a bruised earth. Strange to watch sightseers enter the museum, where the disassembled parts of a Martian machine are kept on public view. Strange when I recall the first time I saw him. Bright and clean cut. Hard. Silent. Under the dawn of that last great day.